Chapter 49 to 50. Age. 767 Scion newborn pods. As the clock chimed 11, 2 Scions entered the newborn pods. Third Scion stopped outside the door, posting guard. They moved swiftly through the rows, before ending up at 3 large cylinders, a Scion baby floating within each one. Vegeta, the female Scion says, glancing at her lover. Pot, I had the genetics ran twice. He does not have the markers for the anomaly strain, Vegeta says, pulling up the information on the datapad. He's average as far as power level is concerned. Then what has you worried? Potatra asked. Our baby seems completely normal. Look at his forehead, Pot. That line, Vegeta says, placing his finger on the thick glass. She studies it momentarily, confusion marring her otherwise pretty face. What is it? I can't puzzle it out. It's an eye, Vegeta responds. An eye? She exclaims. How? I'm not sure. The doctors have never seen one before. Vegeta replies. They tell me it will be fully functional, however. That's what has you worried? She asks, turning back to her son. It's a genetic abnormality, Pot. There is no telling how the populace will react. There is no telling how it will affect him. Vegeta explains. So what? We should send him off-world. Send him to some far-off planet like one of the peasant children. Potatra asks, a hint of anger in her voice. No, I don't think we need to go that far. I was thinking of one of the academy orphanages. He'll be trained and grow with other children. If he turns out to be completely fine, we can bring him back into the fold. Vegeta explains. This way we are far afield of any potential fallout. And so KLL was abandoned. 5 years would pass swiftly, his progress watched by the Scion royalty. A weariness in their countenance as KLL's power swiftly grew during the academy tests and beyond. His mother's passing in age 778 would force Vegeta to take a further step back in his mourning, losing track of Kale for a time. When Vegeta returns, he finds that his son had grown tremendously, earning a spot on the 3rd Strike Force. His power level growing leaps and bounds swiftly. Vegeta feared what his son was becoming, but in a flash of light, Vegeta would know no more. Age 780. Explain now, Z, were Vegeta's first words. His first breath of oxygen in nearly a year used to learn what had happened. My lord, you along with the others were killed by Frisia's brother Cooler. Xenace replies, stating the obvious. Yes, I understood that much. How are we alive again? Vegeta asked. My lord, one of my members, KLL, managed to defeat Cooler. Frisia then killed him to stop him from getting stronger. He contacted me from a place he called Otherworld, telling me that in 7 months' time, he would be able to revive those lost on this planet. He did not say how, but as you can see, it was true, Xenace explained. Vegeta's heart begins to race, his very being feeling a tinge of fear. He steadies himself as best he can. KLL, the kid on your team. How did he defeat Cooler? Vegeta asked, the small stutter seemingly ignored. He transformed, sire. He told me that like Frisia's race, within all Scions is another form just waiting for the right moment to come out. He called it Super Scion. Xenace answered. Super Scion. King Vegeta calls out, approaching Xenace. Did you say Super Scion? Yes, my lord, Xenace replies. The fear has grown, tinged with regret. His greatest fears have come to haunt him. His son, the anomaly. Also, send a message to my son, Indivaya, Vegeta said, contemplating how best to alert him. Tell him legends state across Reborn. He'll understand. If he gives you any orders, follow them. A few short days later, Vegeta would bear witness to his lost son's true power, floating high above Frisia Planet 218. That his body screamed at him to destroy him, that he knew that it was now impossible. His son, the killer of Cooler and Frisia, the Super Saiyan. The anomaly. Just 50 feet away, KLL rests within King Vegeta's personal med tank. A datapad shows that KLL has already healed from his injuries, and is simply resting. That he healed from such grievous injuries so swiftly, another sign of his differences. Indivaya, Vegeta says, looking up from his datapad. Yes, father. Indivaya asks, looking over. I need to tell you something about Kale before he wakes up. The datapad chimed less than an hour later, informing them that Kale had awoken and exited. After sending an attendant for Kale, they waited, knowing he would be there shortly. A few minutes pass before the side doors open, Kale walking in, wearing the armor that had been left for him. A special set of armor specifically made for Kale. Sire, I have brought the Scion Kale as requested, the assisting Scion says once they approach. Vegeta studies KLL. The missing eye, the rough appearance, even the hair that was so clearly a mix of his own and Potatra's. Tell me, Kale, was it? Did you defeat Frisia? Yes. Khalil's answer was weird, non-committal, a diversion so obvious to someone like Vegeta who dealt with politics on a daily basis. "Show me your new form," Vegeta asks, tensing even as he does so. Khl cocks his head, seemingly considering something before with a sharp crack. His form was ablaze with golden fire. His hair sharpened slightly, clumping different, waving from an unseen wind. The air in the room was heavy, oppressive. Impressive. Vegeta got to his feet after sitting in stunned silence, approaching his son to study this new form. That Kale had yet to kill everyone in the room was a surprise. Vegeta inquired as to how it worked and made plans to get this power for himself and Indivaya. That Kal so readily was willing to share was a positive sign, to say the least. Vegeta breathed out a sigh of relief, before reining it in. As the conversation wound down, Kale offered his hand, offering to take him to someone named Bulma. That they teleported seemingly hundreds of billions of miles in an instant wasn't just impressive, but scary as well. As Vegeta watches his two sons fight, Kale pushing Indivaya further and further, he can't help but feel an inkling of pride. The two strongest mortals in the universe, both his children. His fears had pushed them apart so many years ago. Perhaps it was time to let them go. After setting Indivaya into his med tank, Vegeta had swiftly made his way below the palace, down to the monitoring equipment. Turning it on, he listened to the past hour's record. With KLL off planet, the best time to discover what all was happening with him was to listen in as much as possible. Who's Kami? Vegeta wondered, listening intently. Age 776. Comet Logeria. I knew he would be here soon enough. Much like clockwork, this game seemed to march on and on inevitably towards this same set of events. Beerus and Whis would arrive soon, an attempt to challenge me to a fight. Also that they could judge me worthy and force me into a death game with the other timelines, and try to win out in the end. It was boorish, and a waste of time at this point. Inevitable though, I whisper lightly in the vacuum of space. I had tried once or twice to ignore it, to explore the universe and see what all it held. I had traveled hundreds of thousands of light years, farther than any being within our galaxy, and seen much. No matter what Beerus and Whis would arrive, the challenge would happen regardless of the outcome. A year from now I would be fighting one of the other gamers. I smiled lightly, thinking of my friends. We had been at this for quite some time, but still no answer could be found for what this game actually was. I had explored two other simulations, but neither had grabbed my attention as Dragonball did. There was a small flash of light from somewhere behind me, lighting up the pure darkness that surrounded us. The tall outcropping of rock that I stood upon, sharp and jagged, was surrounded by several dozen other spires much alike. I turned slowly, looking behind me, to find Whis and Beerus floating a few dozen feet away. I see you have arrived, Lord Beerus, just on time, I said with my mind, knowing they would be able to hear me. That's right, brat, it's time to finish this, Beerus replies, as Whis casually floats to a better vantage point. You gave me a good fight last time, but it wasn't enough. Combat has started. Enemies. Beerus, level 39. 7250000 XP. This would mark my 9th time fighting Beerus, as I had died rather early in my 4th playthrough. The only thing that made any of this worth it was that in less than a year I would see at least one of my real friends at the tournament. I set a timer on my HUD for just over 4 minutes, and then pulsed my energy. My tall lithe form seemed to glow as armor began to cover my body. I had played as a Scion twice, just to see what it was like, but had quickly realized that as a frost demon, power is inherited. It was addictive. My already long tail grew another several foot, the end hardening and growing into a bone scythe over 1.5 feet long. My wrists thickened, the armor growing down the length of my arms to my elbow, encircling the entire thing, and growing a thin spike nearly to my shoulder. The backside had a thin row of razor-sharp blades, reminiscent of Shredder's blades in that long-forgotten cartoon of my youth. My favorite part of the transformation, however, was the crown. Cooler's had 4 tall spikes, while Frisia had looked more like horns. My own was unique, covering my head in sharp scale-like protrusions, a circle of blades that wrapped down to my mouthpiece. The transformation finished in seconds, having been used and practiced for nearly a decade at this point. I knew that it wouldn't be enough to defeat Beerus, but I also had 4 minutes to burn. With a flick of my tail, my spire of rock shattered, immediately caught and launched at Beerus with a thought. I was rocketing in between them, catching up with the lead rock right as Beerus smashes through one that was aimed right at him. My fist slammed into his jaw, knocking him back slightly, but he was immediately on the offensive again. His furred fist slammed into my arm guard, the bone armor cracking almost instantly. It healed just as quickly, my knee coming up to catch Beerus flush in the chin, my tail coming around to slice through him. His sense of danger was as perfect as always, however, as he took the knee to the face, and used the hit to bend backward to dodge the incoming blade. His speed increased instantly, his fist slamming into my stomach, followed immediately by a left hook that sends me smashing through the comet's crust. "You're weak," Beerus says. "I don't know why the oracle fish seemed to think you'd make a good challenge, but you are useless." "Useless?" I ask as I pull myself from the rubble. No, Beerus, I'm just getting starting." I pull deep, a ball of energy deep within my body expanding like a raging torrent of energy. My aura formed around me for the first time, flashing through several colors all at once to end on a two-tone color shift between red and black. Deep blood-red energy for the first several inches off my skin, before slowly darkening till the last several inches was red. My armor took on the same color, my body turning midnight black, the bone armor outcroppings turning a matching red. As edgy as it was, I knew I looked a total badass. "A new form?" Beerus asks, studying me. "Show me how much it can do." He had barely finished the sentence before my fist was slamming into his cheek, launching him on a trajectory that would have tossed him into space had I not immediately appeared in his path with a back-breaking hammer fist to send him spiraling back to the ground below. My tail snapped out, wrapping around his midsection before he had traveled more than a few feet, stretching it out as I spun to launch him away. As I released him, a javelin of energy formed in my palm, enough energy to crack open a passage between dimensions appearing. With a flick, I launch it, the sharp edge slicing into Beerus before exploding silently in space. A moment later, my feet touched down on the ground, Beerus laying in a crumpled heap a few feet away. "Stop holding back or I may accidentally kill you. I don't care that this is a test. If you do not come at me with everything you have, I will destroy you," I told him, knowing it would have the desired effect. Beerus pulls himself to his feet, shaking off the damage, a look of pure malice on his face. A dark purple aura formed around him, reeking of destruction and death. "That's more like it. Combat has started. Enemies. God of Destruction Beerus. Level 39. 27 250 000 XP. I swiped it away immediately, barely dodging Beerus's opening attack. I let one hit slam into my shoulder, using the chance to start attacking back. Our speed was close, though Beerus now held the advantage of power. As long as I could hold this out a bit longer, I felt good about my chances to win. I could see my timer counting down in extreme slow motion, our movements many times faster than real time. I could feel Whiss's eyes on us, so I knew it was time to finish this. My eyes unfocused slightly as a feeling of weightlessness took over my body. Where before I was hard armor, muscle and skin, I now felt more water than flesh. I flowed around Beerus' attack, my own attacks slipping by his defense like it never existed at all. His eyes widened, unable to catch up and stop the onslaught. 3 hits, stomach, chest, chin, and his form crumple around the impacts, his form smashing and skidding across the landscape. I was following right along. Every time he attempts to correct, I catch him again with multiple attacks of nearly unfathomable power. He wasn't able to keep up with the assault, and I was quickly breaking through his defenses and doing real damage to him. The speed and reaction time from perfected Ultra Instinct, combined with my 5th form and Dark form, Beerus stood little chance. Every now and then his form would shift slightly, and for a moment he would be able to defend himself or fight back, but his inability to hold Ultra Instinct for long would mean his defeat. As his form begins to shift once more, I dodge back, my tail whips around. Beerus gasps out, his hands wrapping around the blade planted in his stomach. I grab him by the throat, lifting him into the air as I pull my tail blade out of his stomach. Blood gushes out, a trail left behind us as I fly us to our starting area. A few minutes pass as he struggles against my hand, but he gives up once he realizes that he's at my mercy. We finally reach the tall spires of rock, and I let him drop on one of the flatter ones, landing lightly next to him. A quick glance at my timer tells me I managed to end it with almost 30 seconds left. "Looks like this is your end, Beerus," I thought aloud, knowing he could hear it. I don't think you have the strength to kill me," Beerus replies. "I can feel my injuries beginning to heal. Another few minutes and I will be back on my feet." I smirk before looking directly up. "You don't have a minute," I reply, before looking down at his broken form. It took me close to 6 months to move this comet in the right trajectory, to aim it perfectly, and to accelerate it to nearly 1/10 of the speed of light. And in less than 10 seconds, it's going to collide with a barren planet and produce enough energy that not even I would survive. Whis, take us away now," Beerus replied, his thoughts loud in my head. "Goodbye, Beerus," I say before disappearing with a pop. Moon 1. Combat has ended. Enemies. God of Destruction Beerus. Level 39. Plus 27 250 000 XP. Max/max. Level up alert. Level up alert. Level up alert. Level up alert. I had barely appeared on the planet's closest moon when I received the alert I had been looking forward to for years as I planned this whole battle. In just a few seconds I'll be able to see the impact for myself. This moon orbiting at about twice the distance Earth's moon did. It was interesting to note that the game moved faster than the speed of light, Beerus having died several seconds ago, but I couldn't see it just yet. There was a bright flash of light, brighter even than this solar system star, requiring me to cover my eyes for a moment. As the afterimage faded, I was granted a look at my handiwork. The planet was shattered, its liquid core spraying out into the cold of vacuum. Over half of the planet was no more or launched away from the impact site. While the comet Logeria was only a half dozen miles around, the speed at which it had impacted the atmosphere-less planet was tremendous. I doubt any being in the universe could survive. It's quite a beautiful sight, isn't it? I hear a voice say in mind. I turn to look over my shoulder, spotting Whis standing just a few feet behind me. I shrug before turning back. I'm surprised you left him to die. I thought back, watching large chunks of the planet begin to move closer to the moon. I could even feel its gravity weakening, allowing the moon's orbit to shift. I had considered not. But it's also not often that a god of destruction is outmatched and outplayed by a mortal. I must admit that my curiosity got the best of me. Whis responds, walking up to stand next to me. Curious as to what? Yes. Whether or not you'd make a better god of destruction, Whis responds. My eyes widen in shock as I turn to face him. Is that an offer? If you're willing, yes, Whis replies. I think about it for a moment, considering the ramifications of what this choice could mean. I wouldn't be able to fight in the tournament, but that doesn't mean I can't build a team to do so in my stead. Plus the look on Mike or Logan's face would be priceless. How fast can we get to Earth? Ask Whis. We can be there in a few minutes, Whis replies. Let's move then. We have a lot to do before the tournament, and only a year to do it. Say, yes, Lord Zero at once.